I try to focus on the positive on this channel, to read good books and to talk about them. And even if I don't like a book, I don't always talk about it, because there's enough negativity in the world already. But not today, because today we're doing the Unpopular Book Tags Challenge. My hate for tropes, characters, books and authors that you probably like. And I'm already having too much fun with this. So come at me in the comments, tell me why I'm wrong and try to convince me otherwise. But for now, let's make the internet hungry. First one up, a popular book or series that you don't like. I think I've talked about this one already on this channel, and the biggest letdown and the largest disappointment of all books for me personally was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Ready Player One was going to be the book for me. I'm an 80s kid. I've seen all of the cartoons, played all of the games and read all of the books that this book references. It was going to be a roller coaster ride through my youth. And then I started reading the book. And yes, it is all of those things, all of those references, but after 10, 20, 30 pages, it's just that. References. The story isn't all that good, the characters are actually not very well written, and it feels that Ernest Cline wrote himself into a corner and had to invent some magical solution to solve it all. Ready Player One was never meant to be a book. It was actually written as a screenplay for a series or a film, but since it didn't sell, he adapted it to a book. And you know what? I've seen the film too, and it sucks even more. The only redeeming little bit of fun that I had with this book was the fact that I listened to it as an audiobook and it was narrated by our fellow nerd Will Wheaton. And that was about the best thing I could say about that book. Second tag, a love triangle where the main character did not end up with whom I wanted to. Oh boy, here we go. Let's talk Lord of the Rings. Am I the only one who thinks that Aragorn should not have gone with Arwen? That Éowyn was far better suited for him? I mean, I know Arwen was his long lost love, but he would have done so much better by choosing Éowyn. I mean, think of it. She has everything that Arwen brings to the table as well. I mean, she's a badass warrior, she is of nobility. It would have been a great pact between the forces of Gondor and the forces of Rohan. It would have solidified that cooperation between the two nations. Éowyn would have been much more of a challenge for Aragorn, while Arwen was a bit, I don't know, meek, I guess. So Aragorn, my boy, if you're listening, forget about the even star and think of that horse riding, sword wielding, I'm not a man, Éowyn kind of lass. Because she would have been such a better love interest for you than Arwen was. Number 3, a popular book or series that everyone seems to hate, but I actually love. Well, I don't know that everyone hates this book, but every time I mention it, people start getting into a fizzy and start yelling and shouting, and I will not read this book. And I'm talking, of course, by Lolita by Nabokov. If you mention this title, a lot of opinions will be thrown across the room. But in my experience, people that actually are vehemently against this book have indeed not read it and do not know what it is about. Yes, the main character is a sexual predator of the absolute worst kind, one that preys on children. But that isn't entirely what the book is about. Look, Nabokov knew what he was doing. He knew that people would be shocked. And that was the whole point. Because for me, Lolita is about how we know that we should be absolutely shocked and appalled and against the main character. But while we read this book, the main character is so charismatic, is so eloquent, is everything we actually like in someone. And throughout the book, which is written as his defense, as if he was in court and he was defending himself, throughout this book you are going to have moments of doubt. Doubt that he is indeed the very bad person that he is. It is not just about a sexual predator. It's also about people like Charles Manson. How did he manage to convince people to do all of those atrocious things in his name? Why do people follow cult leaders? Why do some people seem to get away with everything just because of their smile, the way they look or their charisma? So for me, Lolita is a masterpiece. It is a literary, modern classic masterpiece, and I will die on this hill. So again, come at me. Number 4, a popular genre that I rarely reach for. If you've been watching my videos, if you know me, if you've been following me on this channel, you already know what I'm going to say now. I don't do romance. Now here's the thing, I don't have anything against romance per se. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a good love interest. But the thing with romance as a genre is that it is rife with tropes, and I don't like tropes. I want my books to surprise me, to have plot twists, to have characters dying, to do things that I did not expect. But if you are filled with tropes, then I'm going to know already what happens. So no, romance is not for me. Number 5, and this might be the big one. A popular or beloved character that I do not like. Let's talk Severus Snape from Harry Potter. I mean, come on. Severus Snape is the kind of teacher that likes bullying kids and humiliate them in front of class. This is the man that willingly, out of his own volition, joined the Dark Wizards because he believed in their causes. And only when it personally affected his life, when suddenly Voldemort kills his beloved Lily, then he is willing to turn against the Dark Wizards. But even then, more or less secretly and not really out of in the open, because, you know, options, you never know that Voldemort might win. And no, his love for Lily Potter does not redeem him. His love for Lily Potter was an obsession. It was creepy. He was a stalker that watched from the bushes. Severus Snape was a selfish, petty character, and I do not care for him, so Avada Kedavra on him. Number 6, a popular, well-beloved author that I simply can't seem to get into. I finally get to do it. I have hinted at it already, but I finally get to do it in a video. Let's talk Colleen Hoover. You know, in these fantasy or sci-fi shows you have like the monster of the week. Well, for me, Colleen Hoover has the drama of the week. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind heavier themes in a book. I mean, Lolita was on this list. And I do understand that sometimes they have to be portrayed in such a fashion that it shocks the audience into having an opinion. Again, Lolita was on this list. But I don't think that's the case with Colleen Hoover. To me, it feels like she romanticizes toxic and unhealthy relationships and that she normalizes terrible things like domestic abuse. And yes, I know these are very real things and that those kind of relationships exist, but that doesn't mean that we have to defend them. And another problem that I have with Colleen Hoover, and I will admit that this is not entirely her own fault, but she got very, very popular due to TikTok. And that means that I see very young readers picking up her books, and these books come with serious trigger warnings. And they might not be suited for a younger audience just yet. I'm not even going to talk about the out of the book kind of drama with her son and things like that, but Colleen Hoover is not an author that I enjoy, and I don't think I will be enjoying her in a near or far future. So there you have it, no Colleen Hoover for me. Number 7, a popular book trope that I am tired of seeing. I don't know if it's a real trope, but let's talk about cozy. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like a cozy vibe. I do like a mid-October rainy Sunday with, you know, sound of raindrops on the roof. I can sit in my favorite chair, maybe light a candle, drink a hot drink, the dog is sleeping next to me, and I can read. I like that kind of cozy vibe. But the problem with cozy vibes in books is it cannot be a replacement for a good story. Cozy cannot be a replacement for well-written characters with some depth. Another thing is that cozy quickly has become a marketing thing. It's a title that they slap onto a book like one of those horrible stickers because it will sell more. Cozy has become a goal for a lot of writers. And if you are trying to write a book with the only intent of being cozy, then cozy can feel forced really quickly. So I don't really mind a cozy book as long as it's done right. And I haven't seen much examples of that lately. So if you think you know one, let me know in the comments, because I don't really want to hate on this trope, but I'm afraid that for now I have to. Number 8, a popular series that I have no interest in reading whatsoever. Here it comes, another big one. Let's talk A Song of Ice and Fire. That's right, the Game of Thrones books. I read the first one and I DNF'd it. I didn't like it. I don't like George R.R. Martin's style of writing. It feels repetitive and becomes boring after a while. And I do get it. I can see why a lot of people like his books. I mean, he has great world building, excellent character depth, and he does political plots like no one else does. I will not deny that he's one of the big fantasy writers we have today. But for some reason, he's just not for me. I mean, I enjoyed the TV series more than I enjoyed the books, and that's saying a lot, because we all know what was wrong with those series. I guess George R.R. Martin is just not for me. Number 9, and our final unpopular book tag already, a film or TV adaptation that was actually better than the book. Well, I don't think that this is going to be an unpopular or controversial opinion, but let's talk Mario Puzo's The Godfather. Now everyone knows and loves the Godfather films, but not a lot of people have read the book. And that's a good thing, because the book was totally different, in my opinion. It felt far more pulp and far less serious than the films were. It was more about triggermen shooting and quipping than the actual very dark undertone that the movies had. Francis Ford Coppola brought together some of the best actors of that time and age for this movie, and they did a marvelous job. I mean, these films have performances of a lifetime by Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, Diane Keaton. It is a masterpiece, and the book necessarily wasn't. So to end on a kind of positive note, I absolutely think the films of The Godfather are much better than the book. And now I want to hear from you. Let's talk some more in the comments. Where did I go wrong? Where do you disagree with me? Or what would you have answered on some of these book tags? Let me know, I will talk unpopular opinions some more. Thank you for watching. These were my unpopular book opinions. But if you need some good recommendations in the meantime, you can always watch this video.